Hi, Nadia. When you approached me to be on the show, I honestly, I didn't know who you were yet. And then I did the research just to make sure that you were someone that I wanted to be on the show and that your message was aligned with mine. And I got so excited by your videos on your website, and all that's going to be in the show notes, but you have this strong, empowered energy that's fitness, but it's not diety. And I just
Right.
loved it. There's not a lot of that in this space.
No, no, not at all. So yeah, when also too, when I found you as well, I'm like, oh my goodness, like I've already felt like we were soul sisters, if you will, right? It's so important that we help women strip it down, right? Just embrace the authenticity of themselves and be okay with that. So super excited about this conversation.
Yes, me too. So I want to go back to the beginning. What was your relationship like with food, weight in your body growing up?
So growing up, I mean, it was okay, right? I didn't really notice anything out of the quote unquote norm. Honestly, it wasn't until in my early 20s, right, where I was just kind of trying to escape my reality because I didn't like where I was in life in all areas. And I was partying a lot. I was comparing myself to what was on social media. So that was bringing me down even low, right? I felt like I had to eat a certain way to obtain a certain physical appearance. So there was a lot of restriction and box with my expectations of myself. So that's really where I was at. And I found myself, again, in a place that just wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't healthy, right? It wasn't sustainable for lifelong. So that was in my early 20s, right before I started to take my wellness seriously.
That's actually interesting because not a lot of people whose stories I hear start later in life, but mine
Right.
was the same way. I was around 22 where I was at the end of grad school and I didn't know what my life was going to look like after that. And I had been so into like getting the A and fitting in that box that once there wasn't that box, I felt really lost. So it's so interesting and nice to hear that, it's not always just, when we're young and impressionable. It can happen when
Right.
we're adults.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. And just even, I love that similarity, just even to expound on that a little bit more. Once I was like, okay, because what happened too was I was so focused on, okay, what did the meal plan say? What are my food ounces? Right. Like, this is what I was being taught, especially like, coming from off of bodybuilding and things like that. But when I noticed certain changes in my body and I wasn't feeling the best, and I said, you know what, I'm done with meal plans. I really want to learn my body, learn my food relationship, learn where my emotions are when I'm eating food, like really take a look at the full picture and not just a part of the frame, right? I felt like I had no control. It was scary, right? To say, okay, I'm eating this thing, but I don't know how many ounces of protein I have, what's going to happen to my muscles. Like, it was definitely um a different time, a scary time, but I knew that if I didn't work through this like, unknown time of my life, that I wasn't going to get into a place of freedom that I wanted to be. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful for that part of my journey. It made me stronger, and it also helped me to relate, to so many women that are drawn to that art, the message that we have.
I think that's something, so many women get down on themselves because they're like, I'm in this position. They have all this shame around,
Right,
you know, having not figured out that dieting doesn't work, and they put themselves in this position, and you grew from it and you became a
right.
stronger person and you found your business, like you found your
Mhm.
calling in life. And I did the same thing. So I try to tell people this isn't a shameful part of your life. This is going to be the building blocks for what makes you great.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you were saying, you know, you were worried about the ounces in food, and you were worried what a certain meal would do to your muscles. We are told this lie that we
Right,
have
right,
so much control with our fitness and our nutrition over our health and what our bodies look like. And it's just not true. The science is just
right.
not there.
Right, right, absolutely. And also, too, one thing, and I want to piggyback off of what you just said, right? For me, in my personal journey, when I was like, okay, I need some help, like I need an outside noise that's kind of aligned with where I want to go. And when I went to go see, just a doctor that was more on the homeopathic realm of things, like really intuitive eating and things like that, he confirmed everything that I already felt in my gut. So when I coach my clients and my women, my amazing world changing women, I let them know, right? we need to learn how to trust our gut literally and figuratively. Like there is a voice there that is guiding you. Trust that, step into that. And I promise as we step into that, people that are aligned with that voice that you're hearing are going to come into your life and speak into you, support you and encourage you along that. Right. So that's so true what you just said.
For those of you listening to the podcast, I'm silently clapping so that there's no audio of it, but that was like so perfect. And it's so hard for women to trust their bodies because they're told in the media that they can't.
Right. Right.
Now, you told me that you are first generation American, your family is from Liberia and Lebanon. I'm interested to know, how did those cultural influences view the way you see yourself and food and your body? How would you describe diet culture in those areas of the world?
So yeah, that's an awesome question and super excited to answer that. For me, the Liberian influence on my family is definitely a lot heavier. You know, actually, we used to live there pre-war. I will say that taking care of your body from a holistic standpoint is something that's kind of unknown and unfamiliar. So I think if judgment comes, it's not coming from a negative place. It's just that they don't know, right? And so sometimes we have a hard time understanding the unknown. And so when I decided to be the change that I wanted to see within my family, within myself, here's the thing. I had to recognize that if I allowed their praises and their positive feedback to feed me, right, then I would allow their critiques to starve me. So very early on, I made the conscious decision that I'm feeling this in my gut, right, that it's my vision to birth. And so I had to separate myself, although it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but I had to recognize that whatever I was receiving as maybe I felt as lack of support, I had to keep going because I knew that once they saw the fruits of what I was doing, my discipline and what I was laboring to break down those mentalities, those mindset, that in some way, somehow, when they felt called in their gut, that they would follow and say yes to their own journey. And it happened. 6 years later, it happened, right? It didn't happen on my own time, but it happened. So to directly answer your question, I just think that there are just certain ways in the culture, like you eat heavier meals, you're supposed to look a certain way, and that means you're happy. If you look a certain way, that doesn't mean that, it means like you're kind of struggling in life. So just really dismantling that dynamic and saying, no, I don't have to show up with your expectation. It's not mine. It's not my story. It's not my narrative. I refuse to continue to write the pen or write my story according to how you see I should hold the pen. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that metaphor. That's fantastic. And you know what? It's very hard to be the person, be the generation that breaks that line of thinking. You're not only breaking it for yourself, you're breaking it for if you decide to have children and the other thing that I love that you just said was if you were going to let their praise affect you, you had to do the opposite. You had to let their criticism affect you. So we just decide we are not going to judge ourselves by other people's praise or criticism, positive or negative, because we can't take on those energies from other people, those opinions of other people, because we can't change other people's opinions of us. And that was something that I dealt with. I was very much like, my worth was dependent on external validation and the, metaphorical gold star. And that was really a problem, just as much as maybe someone who's criticized their whole life, that's a problem for them.
Absolutely.
Now, how did you get started with fitness? You mentioned something about bodybuilding.
Yeah. So it's just like yesterday, every time I tell the story, a part of me like still gets warm and tingly inside. So it started from a place, honestly, where I was working 16 to 18-hour days. And I'm sure those that are listening can relate, right? We feel like we're wearing so many hats, maybe mom, auntie, right? Like businesswoman, teacher, whatever it is. But we forget to put the hat to take care of ourselves, right? And to really just look in the mirror and have that loving self-confrontation, like what needs to go, what do I need to lean in more of? And I kept having that, again, that gut feeling like, hey, Nadia, you're on the 95 South and you're heading there extremely quickly. So I reached out for coaching. Honestly, nothing changed in my life, right? Like I still had my responsibilities. I still had my long days. I still had, some negative thinking that I had to work through, but I knew that I needed a change. And so what I did was I let go of people I started to unleash habits, right? I stopped going out as much because I was just so serious about becoming the person that I knew I was on the inside. So I said yes to some coaching, right? And what happened was on my first day, I remember having this workout plan and I was in the big room in my local gym and I just bawled my eyes out. Like, because again, I really want to be honest. I didn't look like what I saw on social media. I wasn't moving like what I saw on social media. I just felt defeated, right? And so I'm so thankful that I always tell my clients, number one, we have to have vision and we have to decide when we want to take on our holistic wellness journey. But we also have to be anchored in something that's bigger than us, that's deeper in us, from a conviction that's within, that's independent on our degrees, our houses, our cars, our performances, our accolades, because that's really what helps us to keep on keeping on, right? And so I was thankful that I was anchored within my own personal faith. And I recognize that there's still strength in my weakness, that there's lessons in there, right? That it's my race, that's my race, my journey, my pace, right? My pace, not your pace, my pace. So that's really how I got started. And, and the Kash method, why I say it's a different kind of strong, that's what I mean, right? We all have our own strengths. Like I can never show up as you. I will undoubtedly fail every single time. And that's way too big of a burden to put on ourselves. But when we can say, you know what, I'm going to say yes to Nadia, the good, the ugly, the bad, the indifferent, whatever that looks like, life really starts to be awesome from that point on. So that was kind of my introduction to saying yes to my fitness journey.
I love what you said about how like it has to be a greater purpose.
Has
A
to
lot
be.
of a lot of women say, I just want to lose 15 pounds. And I'm like, no, you don't. That's
Right.
not what it is. It's a deeper reason, and you have to acknowledge that deeper reason. And
Right.
maybe it is to challenge yourself in a way to see what type of strength you actually have. Whatever, maybe you want to show your kids what a strong woman can be. Whatever it is, it's got to be more than that 15 pounds.
Yeah. You know what, when you just mentioned that, it made me think of a conversation that I had with a client, and we came and she was like, she had this picture. She's like, Nadia, this is what I want to look like. And, it was her, and it was her pre having beautiful children, pre being in an amazing marriage. Right. And I said, hold on, let's sit here for a second. I said, seasons change, but the commitment remains. Right. So we want this yesterday's package, but we don't have yesterday's mentality. We don't have yesterday's responsibilities. Yesterday's life looks differently. Would you want to be in this package and then take away everything from your present? Right. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, we can understand the strength is still there because you were able to accomplish that, but now we're just in a different season. And it's just really, tearing down the expectation of how we need to show up and just yielding to the process of becoming. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, for sure. Now you made a very beautiful segue for my next question, which you have created the signature Kash method. So tell us, what is the Kash method?
Yeah, the Kash method is an amazing program and way to really truly dismantle and ditch the diet mindset. I know you hear that all the time, right? Diet has the word diet in it. It's a start and an end date. It's not sustainable. So I really want to provide a loving atmosphere for my women to help them work through that process, because it is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. We work on embracing our curves and loving on our bodies as beautiful as they are in the moment, right? I tell them that no body is the same. Fitness is not one size fits all. Movement is not one size fits all, right? And then we build that confidence from within that is unshakable, right? Because again, I tell them, if you're just looking to get a high glute or some bicep flex, if you don't like what's looking back at you in the mirror, guess what? That perky booty and those biceps ain't going to fulfill that, So we do the work. And then I'm also, a bridge. I love to bring on just other experts to speak into my community and make sure that they feel loved and supported to make this lifelong, because it's required in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, right? Our 90s, our hundreds. We're believing for long life. So that's really the Kash method. I coach the collective women virtually worldwide, and we are empowering women one woman at a time to really take charge of their health legacy. Because I believe that when a woman is empowered in her health legacy, a generation is transformed.
Absolutely. So you coach virtually.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, good. So
100%
anybody
bartending.
who's listening can train with you.
Anyone.
That's
Yep.
fantastic. I love that. And
Absolutely.
there's not enough trainers who will speak to the inside. Like you
Mm,
said, it's all about the high glute.
right.
But if you
Right.
don't love what's inside, it doesn't matter. When I was at my lowest weight, I was my most miserable because guess what? It wasn't about the weight loss. There was some
Right.
wicked self-worth issues that were happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that I do say, even when I'm talking about releasing, I don't, when my client comes to me say, I want to lose 15 pounds, just like you, I say, hold on, we need to do some releasing, right? We need to release people. We need to release thoughts. We need to release waste inside your body, right? So just really already working to shift the mindset, shift the words that we're using around the transformation that we want to happen. You know what I mean? Because it's just not about the weight going, because here's the thing, and I've been in the business of bodybuilding, right? You see some amazing quote unquote physiques, but here's what, people can walk around being so miserable, and that's just walking around like being in prison, right? Like, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I try to tell people that too. There are plenty of very fit, very skinny, very pretty, miserable people out there.
Right,
So that's
right.
clearly not the path to happiness.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And you talk about a different kind of strong, that's what you
Mm.
give your women and your clients. So can you speak
Yes.
a little bit about what that means, a different kind of
Absolutely,
strong?
absolutely. So to be totally transparent, for me, the way it came from is right. It was birthed right in that room where I said that I was not felt totally defeated, and so in my own personal faith, my scripture hugged me close that night, right? And it says that His grace is sufficient in our weakness. His strength is made perfect, and that's where I'm like, I'm a different kind of strong. Right? There's still beauty in my weakness. So here's what I tell my women. I don't care what your faith background is, whoever you call God, whatever you believe in, we need to get anchored in that. We need to get anchored in what's bigger than you, because that's really what helps you to move forward. Because also too, guess what? Our own brains can be our worst critics, right? Our thoughts can be a lot of times more negative. So we have to be able to look outside of even what we say about ourselves, right? And recognize that we're still beautiful, we're still capable, we're still able. So that really is the logistics and the meat of a different kind of strong, is getting my women to see themselves outside of themselves, how capable they are, and walk in that and own that and be absolutely unapologetic.
That's amazing. And right, like there are so many different definitions of strong and so many different examples of what that looks like that it's all choice. You have to choose
Right.
your version of strong as strong.
That's good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
good.
So how can you help someone ditch the diet? Let's talk a little bit about the practical logistics of what you do.
Yeah. So just really one of the main things I do. So when I onboard my client, right, I'll take them through a class that we talk about what is your body naturally doing. I always say your body speaks. We just need to learn how to listen to it. Right. So I let them know, like, for instance, right, like when we wake up, the first thing we do is we go pee. We hopefully should have a healthy bowel movement. So recognizing, okay, we want to go ahead and choose loving foods that are going to help us eliminate from our bodies. And here's the thing, I can give you a fish, you'll eat for a day. If I teach you how to fish, you're going to eat for a lifetime. So really helping my clients understand, again, what their bodies are doing within those 24 hours and why certain foods are more helpful and beneficial. You see what I'm saying? So that way they have that information. And then as they're doing it, I let them know, please write down, like, journal how your body's feeling. How is it responding? Because just because something is healthy, but it makes you miserable, then maybe that's not the food choice for you, right? Maybe that shouldn't be a part of, so just allowing them and coaching them to understand how their body's speaking. And it's different for everyone. So that's why it's important for me to constantly have those, like I call them weekly cash connects, where we come on and everyone just shares what's been going on. Hey, Nadia, I'm doing this and it feels awesome, but I had to, maybe eliminate Brussels sprouts or something like that. So that's the first initial step that we take. But then also practicing giving yourself grace, because I promise you, as we dismantle these rules and regulations that we've been accustomed to doing, it's going to try to creep back in. And we're going to, have those moments where it's like, oh my goodness, like, I ate the cookie or whatever, I had the Cinnabon. and not beating yourself up. That's so, so big, right? Just giving yourself grace, deep breath. That's okay. It's okay, right? It's totally fine to have those moments and just continue on. So those are two big ways that, I help my clients start to ditch that diet.
Yeah, it's and there's different kinds of hunger. Sometimes you just want that Cinnabon, and that's
Right,
totally fine.
right.
And I love salads. I love fresh vegetables. But guess what? I hate kale. I just
Right.
can't get into it. I don't know what it is. I can't do it. Some people might genuinely love kale. I love Brussels
Right.
sprouts. My husband's like, no.
I'm all set.
Hard pass. Hard pass. So it's different for everybody. And
Absolutely.
it's okay.
It's okay. Absolutely.
So what do you mean when you say one of your trademark phrases is train the mind and the body follows?
Absolutely. Because here's the thing, if I'll give you a real practical example, right? Like if you've ever been trained by someone physically, right? Whether it's in the gym, outside, whatever, and you're in a room where people are just kind of giving it their all, like, no, we're going for it. That energy is transferred. And you're like, you know what? I can push a little more too. So I always say the battlefield starts in the mind. This is where it all starts. You know what I mean? And so we have to work to confront our thoughts, recognize where are they coming from, what's the root of this, because we're absorbing so many other conversations. Even if we're on the train or the subway and we hear other people talk, subconsciously we're absorbing their conversation. So just really being super intentional about your thoughts, about your habits, is so important, because as you can start to master and get a hold and build a healthy relationship with how your mind works, your body follows, right? Like if you say that you're going to, go out there and I'm going to run a mile and I'm going to give it my all, like you've already made that decision. Like you've decided. I say that a determined mind with discipline and direction is unstoppable. You've made that decision and your mind is made up. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if there's snow happening. Like, that you're going to get that mile accomplished because you've decided. And so just really working on that mental strength is so important.
Absolutely. And I'm sure listeners right now are like, oh God, I'm so on board. I'm going to trainwithkash.com. We're going to get it started. And they're on this high. It always starts with this like positive high, but you experience the lows throughout the journey. And you say on your website that your biggest fear is failure and that you're a work in progress on that, as am I. I'm a recovering perfectionist, as I like to say. And, I know so many women fear failure in this space when it comes to trusting their body and starting a fitness journey and reevaluating eating habits. So what's way that we can combat this failure and work toward not being so fearful of failure?
Right. That's good. One of my mentors shared with me that he has a day where he celebrates his failures and he also renamed them as just growing opportunities. See, failures is just feedback. It's actually a blessing because it's letting us know what's not working, what's not serving us, and what we can release to be able to work more effectively, efficiently, and more joyful, right? So I think just really shifting our minds, see, train mind, body follows, shifting our minds to identify failure as not a negative. And I know it's tough because we're not taught that. We're taught that we have to have it all together, right? Go out there, sweep it under the rug, get the A, get the high achievement, whatever it is. But I want to give you permission right now to say it's okay to fail. And also know that as you set that example, anyone that's watching you, whether it's son, daughter, niece, nephew, mom, father, whomever it is in your close circle that loves you, you're helping them to disrupt that narrative too, right? So just, again, allowing yourself the ability to stink, because guess what? We're not good at everything. You don't got to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So give yourself that permission to be absolutely horrible at something and say, listen, I'm just going to continue to fail forward. I'm going to continue to learn, right? We didn't walk the first time as an expert, we fell, but we continue to get back up. So just adapting that childlike mentality, there it is, train mind, body follows, and just continue to say yes to yourself. But also too, I think it's important is to make sure that we're in a like-minded community. And that's the beauty of the internet right now. So maybe we don't have it in our inner circle physically, but you can get a part of a community like this, right? So that you feel supported, you feel encouraged, but you also see other testimonies because you see other women that are in your same starting point or similar, and you see them navigating the same waters. And you're like, hey, if she can do it, so can I. That's the beauty of it. So
yeah, I didn't start my recovery journey from eating disorders until I saw the community on Instagram and on podcasts. Like it wasn't in my own life. It wasn't in my personal life. And I'm pretty sure most of the people in my personal life still don't quite understand what I do. And that's my cross to bear, and that's fine because I think like you and people in the community that do get it. So I have that space. 2 more questions. You also told me that you have a 6-year-old niece, Victoria, and she's your best friend and your best teacher. And I think we can learn so much from children in terms of eating intuitively, because I have a 20-month-old son, and like he'll have like one crunchy left on the table, and like the rest of us would be like, all right, I guess I'll just eat it. There's only one. He's like, no, I really don't want it, because he's trusting himself. What is the biggest lesson you've learned from Victoria?
The biggest lesson that I've learned from her, honestly, is to be very persistent. Like, for instance, if she wants something, she will ask me 20,000 times. She'll ask her mom. Like, she will not stop until we're like, all right, go ahead, have whatever it is that you want to have. And so it almost ties into our failure part that we just talked about, right? Where she's gotten that no, but it does not stop her. Like, she is head on, like, I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to, get the cookie, whatever it is I'm after, I'm going to get it. So really allowing that tenacity and that persistence to lead me and guide me, in my own area is so important. And to that fact, even just last night, her and I went out for a pizza date, and she did the same thing. She had her, because it's a huge pizza with 4 slices, and it was just me and her and I. And so she had her huge piece, and then the second piece, she's like, Auntie, I'm okay. I was like, you sure? She's like, yeah. So it's nice to, again, be able to just trust your gut. And then enjoy the moments, laugh, the simple things. The simple things make her so joyful. So really just walking in that as well. Like, when it's sunny out, being grateful that I can walk and breathe and enjoy the scenery and things like that. So, and lastly, she enjoys movement. Like, our bodies were created to move. Your body doesn't have to be underneath, it doesn't have to be in a certain space. Like, whatever brings you joy and movement, I say lean into that. And, seeing her, like, when we run up hills and roll down hills and things like that, it's so beautiful. So she really helps to bring out the kid in me.
That's awesome. And I would also like to add that you are a fitness trainer that eats pizza. People, this is okay. We can do this. Actually, I have to say, I went with trainwithkash.com, and that'll be in the show notes. The video of you and other you talking to each other. Oh my God, it was so funny, guys. You have to see it. It is the best. I love that you have a sense of humor about it too. It's just fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, you have to. And it also helps you when we lead with attitude of gratitude and just try to look at everything. All right, what's the positive? It helps us to navigate even the darker times a little easier, right? Like, you get to look to see, okay, again, what am I learning? What are the positives here? Because here's the thing, a storm doesn't last forever. We're going to get through. There's going to be the rainbow on the other side. So we just have to keep putting that one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, I can't believe the time went by so quickly.
I know.
I really enjoyed talking with you. Like, genuinely just awesome. I love your energy. What a great way to start my day, for sure.
Oh, thank you.
I always end with a question that I ask every guest, and that is, since this podcast is called Finally Free Podcast, what does it mean to you to be finally free?
It's awesome to release the expectation of others, and it's also awesome to put down the burden of perfection, because like you, I am a recovering perfectionist, and that's something that we will never attain. So we are constantly setting ourselves up for failure, right? So when I'm finally able to put that down, there's just a freedom. It's almost like I had on 100-pound vest, and I took off that vest, and my chest is like, you know what I mean? And then I'm able to just show up as me, regardless if I'm getting the hoorahs or the boos, whatever. I'm just able to be me. Like, I know that's not sexy. I know it's kind of cliche, but That's the simple and authentic truth, that there's just a freedom in that you can spread your wings, that you can fall, that you can scrape your knee, but you know it's going to be all right. And that you can continue to be on this path and be on this journey of your own becoming. And let me tell you something too. We're all connected, right? We're all connected. And so just recognizing that if I don't continue to say yes to myself and walk in my own freedom and walk and fulfill my shoes, that those that are connected to me won't be able to lace up theirs. They literally will not be able to lace up theirs because I haven't done my part. And so again, releasing the expectation of others and then getting in purpose and getting in assignment is so fulfilling and joyful. And it's a freedom. It's a freedom. You're flying, even in your lows, you're flying.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful way to end. Nadia, thank you so, so much for being on the show. I hope everybody goes and finds you. I mean, you're a virtual coach, so anybody anywhere can train with you.
Yes.
So it's all going to be in the show notes. So check Nadia out when you guys get a chance. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.